little practice, I could tell myself to relax it. Will be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see I'm better at this today. Woo!
Wait.
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard to follow before it's too late. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up. It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. But I know it's hard to follow before it's too dark. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me.
What is up, you guys? What is up? We are back to normal. Alright, we got the green screen, we got the proper setup, everything is looking good, we got the hype music, we got our anthem going on. Alright, everything is good. How do you guys feel? Do you guys feel hyped for today? Because I am tired, my God. I am super lagged right now, but it's alright. Not the stream, me personally. Lots of stuff being done today, but we're back at it. Another day. Time to hit that grind. Time to learn some new things. Epic, epic, epic. Well, before moving on any more, are you poor? Great, perfect. We want to give you stuff for free. I know, it's incredible. All you need to do is go to our site, click on the blog, and then go to our week 1 giveaways. Every week, we will be giving away stuff to everyone that enters, all right? Completely free. You can go do all of these different types of entries, and when you refer people, all right, it's unlimited points you can get on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. All they have to do is use this link to go here and also enter the giveaway, all right? And you'll get more and more points, and more likely than not, you'll be the one that wins, all right? Now, if you have $1 or $2 to spare, then in the description down below, you can click on this link, all right, and head over to this beautiful site here. We are a nonprofit, so everything you donate is tax deductible, all right? So help us out here. We're doing this to raise some money because we're kind of low right now, and our sole employee, Kote, he keeps begging for health benefits or something. I think it's a little bit silly, but come on, you guys. Like, help us out here. We need some cash to give our man some health benefits, okay? Whenever you do donate on here, you will help us reach our goals. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's little lines here, which are the big goals we want to hit. Additionally, depending on the tier that you hit, you'll be able to get some cool merch, including the Epic Collab t-shirt, what I got on right here, right now. Look how cool this is. All right, this is some awesome stuff right here. So make sure you go get yourself one of these shirts by donating right here. Also, all donations to the stream are going to be met 1 for 1. We have an anonymous donor that will be matching everything for the first 10,000 donations. At the end of every month, they'll be matching what has been donated. So basically, if we get to 10,000, immediately they'll be matching all of that. So we'll immediately hit 20,000, and well, shave my beard is what we do when we hit 20,000. So maybe we don't hit 20,000, all right? Maybe that's not the good move here, all right? But yeah, let's ignore I even talked about that stuff, shall we? Sweet. How are you guys doing? Any questions from the previous days? Anything moving forward? Anyone scared? Anyone having nightmares over this content? Fearful for their lives? No? I see a little bit scared, but overall excited to be here. That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm just trying to bring up... Where is it? Here we go. The other chats right here, so that way I can get a more live view, because sometimes this one over here is a little bit laggy. Awesome. So we finished up pretty much all of the fun math stuff, and now we're just going to be talking a little bit about data and data on computers and how it's laid out, and etc., etc. And technically, legacy-wise, it is in our computer internals, so that is kind of what you guys are touching on right now. But just so if you guys want to follow along, if you go to the CompSci cert you can click on basic math, and at the very bottom here, we have our computer data. We pretty much hit on all of these topics, but let's ask the two most important questions here. What is an integer? Come on, put it in the chat. Susanna's recording. Everyone that gets it right. Let's see. How many of you guys remember from last time? Numeric value. Can we be a little more specific? What does it not have? All right, very important. Very, very important. There you go. Not a decimal. What about floating point? All right. Floating point. Keyword there. Point. Usually it's called a float. Decimal numbers, perfect. Exactly. That's the big difference here. All right. Super important to know those differences. All this stuff, also important. All this stuff is important. But the biggest takeaway is know what this is. It's going to help us move forward quicker when we do go over programming and start hitting that. Which, I don't know, maybe we'll start touching on at least some things today. I don't know. We'll see how today goes. All right. So, I have a video for us to watch together as a group, all right? And then we're going to talk about some of the parts that are in it specifically. So we did talk about binary. We talked about numbers. We talked about data. We talked about how in a computer, it's just arbitrary ones and zeros that you have to interpret how you want to interpret it. It's completely up to you on how you want to interpret this data. It could be a character. It could be a floating point value. It could be a whole number. It could be something else, all right? Totally up to you. So this is just going to be another run through of it to really hammer in these points because it's really important that you guys know this stuff. I mean, this is literally the blood of a computer, right? This is what everything is using. So let's go and take a look at this.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann, and this is Crash Course Computer Science. And today we're going to talk about how computers store and represent numerical data, which means we've got to talk about math. But
And she's British, which means she knows her shit, so you guys better pay attention.
don't worry, every single one of you already knows exactly what you need to know to follow along. So last episode we talked about how transistors can be used to build logic gates, which can evaluate Boolean statements. And in Boolean algebra there are only two binary values, true and false.
Does that sound familiar? I swear I didn't waste your guys' time with all that useless math for any reason, alright? We didn't talk about what she's talking about, but you can kind of see here, you know, truth tables, true and false, binary, it all comes together, right? I swear.
But if we only have two values, how in the world do we represent information beyond just these two values? That's where the math comes in. So as we mentioned last episode, a single binary value can be used to represent a number. Instead of true and false, we can call these two states 1 and 0, which is actually incredibly useful. And if we want to represent larger things, we just need to add more binary digits. This works exactly the same way as the decimal numbers that we're all familiar with. With decimal numbers, there are only 10 possible values a single digit can be, 0 through 9. And to get numbers larger than 9, we just start adding more digits to the
0 through 9. What base is that? Write it in the chat. Let's see it. Who remembers what base that is? Let me pull up the chat here. On the other side, the faster chat. Decimal, yes, but what's the base? Base 10, perfect. Nailed it right on the head. Base, and then the number afterwards is how many a single digit can be. So 0 through 9, base 10. That's normal, what you're normally dealing with. Base 2 would be binary. Because 0 through 1, those are two digits. We're doing with binary, all right? You guys are catching on to this high-end calculus plus math, all right? This is for top league people. It's usually you gate it away, but guess what? You guys are picking up on it. You don't even need to learn all that useless math, all right?
front. We could do the same with binary. For example, let's take the number 263. What does this number actually represent? Well, it means we've got 2 100s, 6 10s and 3 1s. If you add those all together, we've got 263. Notice how each column has a different multiplier. In this case, it's 100, 10 and 1. Each multiplier is 10 times larger than the one to the right. That's because each column has 10 possible digits to work with, 0 through 9, after which you have to carry one to the next column. For this reason, it's called base 10 notation, also called decimal, since deci means 10. And binary works exactly the same way, it's just base 2. That's because there are only 2 possible digits in binary, 1 and 0. This means that each multiplier has to be 2 times larger than the column to its right. Instead of hundreds, tens and ones, we now have 4s, 2s and 1s. Take, for example, the binary number 101. This means we have 1 4, 0 2s and 1 1. Add those all together and we've got the number 5 in base 10. But to represent larger numbers, binary needs a lot more digits. Take this number in binary. We can convert it to decimal in the same way. We have 1 times 128, 0 times 64, 1 times 32, 1 times 16, 0 times 8, 1 times 4, 1 times 2, and 1 times 1.
See, I swear to you guys, this is not like hard math. It's pretty much like, all right, I gotta figure out what, I mean, having a table like this is incredibly helpful. And then literally just getting the numbers and using basic addition. Grab your calculator, add them up. It's nothing super fancy, super crazy. It's just addition at the end of the day.
Which all adds up to 183. Math with binary numbers isn't hard either. Take, for example, decimal addition of 183 plus 19. First we add 3 plus 9, that's 12. So we put 2 as the sum and carry 1 to the tens column. Now we add 8 plus 1 plus the one we carried, that's 10. So the sum is 0, carry 1. Finally we add 1 plus the one we carried, which equals 2. So the total sum is 202. Here's the same sum but in binary. Just as before, we start with the ones column. Adding 1 plus 1 results in 2, even in binary. But there is no symbol 2, so we use 1 0 and put 0 as our sum and carry the 1. Just like in our decimal example. 1 plus 1 plus the one carried equals 3, or 1 1 in binary. So we put the sum as 1 and carry 1 again, and so on. We end up with this number, which is the same as the number 202 in base 10. Each of these binary digits, 1 or 0, is called a bit. So in these last few examples, we were using 8-bit numbers with their lowest value of 0 and highest value of 255, which requires all 8 bits to be set to 1. That's 256 different values, or 2 to the 8th power. You might have heard of 8-bit computers or 8-bit graphics or audio. These were computers that did most of their operations in chunks of 8 bits. But 256 different values isn't a lot to work with. So it meant things like 8-bit games were limited to just 256 different colours for their graphics.
Don't do that with your computer, right? Just don't. Don't do that.
And 8 bits is such a common size in computing, it has a special word.
Pop quiz, all right? Back in the day, 8-bit computers were pretty common. What are computers usually running on today? Does anyone know the answer? We haven't gone over this yet. This is in a later week. We're going to be talking about this more in depth. Does anyone have a guess on how many bit systems we are on now? 64-bit systems is the answer. Yep, 32 bits is, we left that a while ago. There is backwards support in some operating systems for 32-bit pieces of software, but everything today is 64-bit systems. So if you buy a CPU, basically what that means is 8-bit systems would take 8 bits of data, and then the CPU will think about those 8 bits of data, and it will do some type of output. But now we're on 64 bits of CPUs, which means they can now handle 64 bits of data, think about it, and perform some operations. So literally every cycle, so you guys know gigahertz, those are cycles. Those are thousands of cycles, whatever. I can't remember right now how many, is that, million, a billion, whatever. One cycle, 1 hertz, means that the CPU will process 64 bits in one cycle. So every cycle will do 64 more, right? That's what a 64 system is capable of doing. All right, let's move on. We'll talk about more of that on a later week.
A byte. A byte is 8 bits. If you've got 10 bytes, it means you've really got 80 bits. You've heard of kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and so on. These prefixes denote different scales of data. Just like 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes, or really 8,000 bits. Mega is 1,000,000 bytes, and giga is 1,000,000,000 bytes. Today, you might even have a hard drive that has 1 terabyte of storage. That's 8 trillion ones and zeros. But hold on, that's not always true. In binary, a kilobyte has 2 to the power of 10 bytes, or 1,024. 1,000 is also right when talking about kilobytes, but we should acknowledge it isn't the only correct definition. You've probably also heard the term 32-bit or 64-bit computers. You're almost certainly using one right now. What this means is that they operate in chunks of 32 or 64 bits. That's a lot of bits. The largest number you can represent with 32 bits is just under 4.3 billion, which is 32 ones in binary. This is why our Instagram photos are so smooth and pretty. They are composed of millions of colours because computers today use 32-bit colour graphics. Of course, not everything is a positive number, like my bank account in college. So we need a way to represent positive and negative numbers. Most computers use the first bit for the sign, 1 for negative, 0 for positive numbers, and then use the remaining 31 bits for the number itself. That gives us a range of roughly plus or minus 2 billion. While this is a pretty big range of numbers, it's not enough for many tasks. There are 7 billion people on the Earth, and the US national debt is almost $20 trillion after all. This is why 64-bit numbers are useful. The largest value a 64-bit number can represent is around 9.2 quintillion. That's a lot of possible numbers, and will hopefully stay above the US national debt for a while. Most importantly, as we'll discuss in a later episode, computers must label locations in their memory, known as addresses, in order to store and retrieve values. As computer memory has grown...
Alright. We'll call that good right now, because we're not going to be covering these concepts just... oh, they hit on ASCII. Never mind. We're gonna keep watching through. It's been a while since I've watched this video, but mostly the address spaces I didn't want you guys to get too confused on, but we'll go ahead and watch that part.
Episode, computers must label locations in their memory, known as addresses, in order to store and retrieve values. As computer memory has grown to gigabytes and terabytes, that's trillions of bytes, it was necessary to have 64-bit memory addresses as well. In addition to negative and positive numbers, computers...
32-bit systems had one big flaw, and there's a big reason why we don't use them, and we left them in the early 2000s. That would be a part of the address space stuff. We'll hit more on this later, but do you guys know how much was the max amount of RAM you were allowed to have on a 32-bit system? Like, you could buy more RAM, but you weren't allowed to install and actually have it usually like functional. It would not function. Just straight up. Any guesses? I don't expect you guys to know this, and if you barely remember what RAM is, don't worry, we'll hit on that also. I believe, yeah, I think it was 4 gigs. I believe it was 4 gigs. Let me double check. Max 32-bit memory. 4 gigs of RAM. That's the max you could get. This is why we don't use 32-bit systems anymore. So if you are using software that is running as a 32-bit and you're running it in backwards compatibility mode, which kind of gets done automatically, and it acts really crappy, that's why. Because it also goes to every software, a piece of software that you use. It can't use more than 4 gigs. So if you're playing a game, if for some reason that game is only available for 32 bits, or it has the option for 32 or 64 bits, you should definitely get the 64-bit game, because 4 gigs for a game is really, really small, and you're going to eat through all of that, and you're going to be limited.
Must deal with numbers that are not whole numbers, like 12.7 and 3.14, or maybe even stardate 43989.1. These are called floating point numbers because the decimal point can float around in the middle of a number. Several methods have been developed to represent floating point numbers, the most common of which is the IEEE 754 standard, and you thought historians were the only people bad at naming things. In essence, this standard stores decimal values sort of like scientific notation. For example, 625.9 can be written as 0.6 0.6259 times 10 to the power of 3. There are two important numbers here. The 0.6259 is called the significand and 3 is the exponent. In a 32-bit floating point number, the first bit is used for the sign of the number, positive or negative. The next 8 bits are used to store the exponent and the remaining 23 bits are used to store the significand. Okay, we've talked a lot about numbers, but your name is probably composed of letters, so it's really useful for computers to also have a way to represent text. However, rather than have a special form of storage for letters, computers simply use numbers to represent letters. The most straightforward approach might be to simply number the letters of the alphabet, A being 1, B being 2, C 3, and so on. In fact, Francis Bacon, the famous English writer, used 5-bit sequences to encode all 26 letters of the English alphabet to send secret messages back in the 1600s. And 5 bits can store 32 possible values, so that's enough for the 26 letters, but not enough for punctuation, digits, and upper and lowercase letters. Enter ASCII, the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Invented in 1963, ASCII was a 7-bit code, enough to store 128 different values. With this expanded range, it could encode capital letters, lowercase letters, digits 0 through 9, and symbols like the @ sign and punctuation marks. For example, a lowercase a is represented by the number 97, while a capital A is 65, a colon is 58, and a closed parenthesis is 41. ASCII even had a selection of special command codes, such as a new line character to tell the computer where to wrap a line to the next row. In older computer systems, the line of text would literally continue off the edge of the screen if you didn't include a new line character. Because ASCII was such an early standard, it became widely used and critically allowed different computers built by different companies to exchange data. This ability to universally exchange information is called interoperability. However, it did have a major limitation. It was really only designed for English. Fortunately, there are 8 bits in a byte, not 7, and it soon became popular to use codes 128 through 255, previously unused, for national characters. In the US, those extra numbers were largely used to encode additional symbols, like mathematical notation, graphical elements, and common accentuated characters. On the other hand, while the Latin characters were used universally, Russian computers use the extra codes to encode Cyrillic characters, and Greek computers Greek letters, and so on. And national character codes work pretty well for most countries. The problem was, if you opened an email written in Latvian on a Turkish computer, the result was completely incomprehensible. And things totally broke with the rise of computing in Asia, as languages like Chinese and Japanese have thousands of characters. There was no way to encode all those characters in 8 bits. In response, each country invented multi-byte encoding schemes, all of which were mutually incompatible. The Japanese were so familiar with this encoding problem that they even had a special name for it: Mojibake, which means scrambled text. And so it was born, Unicode, one format to rule them all. Devised in 1992 to finally do away with all of the different international schemes, it replaced them with one universal encoding scheme. The most common version of Unicode uses 16 bits with space for over 1 million codes, enough for every single character from every language ever used. More than 120,000 of them in over 100 types of script, plus space for mathematical symbols and even graphical characters like emoji. And in the same way that ASCII defines a scheme for encoding letters as binary numbers, other file formats like MP3s or GIFs use binary numbers to encode sounds or colours of a pixel in our photos, movies and music. Most importantly, under the hood, it all comes down to long sequences of bits. Text messages, this YouTube video, every web page on the internet, and even your computer's operating system are nothing but long sequences of ones and zeros. So next week, we'll start talking about how your computer...
Awesome. So that end part was pretty much review of what we chatted about yesterday. All right. Any questions on any of that information? It should be overall pretty much review. But the first part was really important. I like their graphs and the layout that they did for the binary math, which we're about to do. And don't worry, I got some pretty graphs also that we will be looking at. Now, for some of those out there that have messed around with programming a little bit, you may be familiar with some of these special ASCII codes. Maybe you've done a \n before, or 0, or a T. Those are all ways you can get those special codes that we saw in the ASCII table. All right. I see no questions. What happened to my... What is this? There we go. All right. I see no questions, so we shall move on forward. All right. Where is my other tab? That is not the one. There we go. All right. You guys ready? It is pretty late, so we're going to go kind of short today because it's really, really late. We don't want people falling asleep too much on us, all right? Let's see this. All right. Data representation. Computer systems use, let me zoom in a little bit for you guys here. Use data in a variety of ways. Knowing how numbers, characters, and other data are manipulated and stored yields a deeper understanding of the function of digital systems. Data representation is related to data types in programming as the same set of zeros and ones are interpreted differently based on the data type. For example, this can be interpreted as this integer or this float or this character in Unicode. We kind of talked about that yesterday. We went over how data is just data and it's 100% up to you on how you want to interpret it. All right. Let's talk about numbers, shall we? So this again will be a little bit review, which is perfect. Hopefully this really, slams in your guys' heads here. But a positional numbering system represents numeric values, through increasing power of. I cannot read right now. See, the tiredness is hitting me. All right. Through increasing powers of a base. The base indicates how many values a single digit can take. Base 10 can have up to 10, base 2 up to 2, and so forth and so forth. Decimal, binary, octal, and hex numbering systems are used in computer science. The most common ones are going to be decimal, binary, and hex. Octal is still used, it's not as common. So we're really going to focus on hex and binary and decimal, but we will be touching on octal. But those are the main ones I really need you guys to hammer in. All right. So decimal is going to be base 10, which is 0 through 9 for every single digit. All right. And the digits are usually called digits. To represent something is base 10 when something is actually written out. You'll sometimes see a 10 underneath. It's like the power sign, but instead of above, it's down below, and that dictates what base it is. All right? But usually we'll assume that it's always base 10. Binary. Binary can have up to 2 values. It's base 2, and it's 0, 1. And we usually call each one of those digits in binary bits. All right? And it's base 2, so we can represent it like this as base 2. Octal, you can have up to 8 numbers per digit. All right, so that would be 0 through 7, because 0, and this is going to be a recurring theme in computers, 0 is where you start counting for everything. All right, so we have 8. Doesn't mean we count up to 8, because 0 also counts. Now, when you write octal numbers, you'll usually put an O at the end to indicate it's an octal number. Or if you can instead do base 8, the little symbol right here. And then for hex, 16, so that's 0 through 9, and then we do A through F, and each one's called a digit. And usually you'll put a 0 and X at the very front to indicate it's hex. Or you can do a lowercase h at the end, or you can put the 16 at the bottom. All right, totally up to you on what you want to do there. But this is how you are supposed to properly write it out so you don't confuse people. So a bit is a single binary value, 0 or 1. Fundamental data types are grouped together in multiple sizes. Examples are, so we went over this, a nibble is going to be 4. So again, these are always going to double. Each one is going to double after each other. The only time doubling doesn't happen is between a bit to a nibble. That's going to be 4. All right, you're going from 1, a bit, to 4 in a nibble. 8 in a byte. A word is 16, double word is 32, and quad word is 64. Awesome. In positional notation, each place within a numbering system carries a different weight. The leftmost bit in a binary string is called the most significant bit. All right? This is an important concept, especially for those of you who want to maybe communicate with your friends secretly. You don't want to be manipulating the most significant bit. It will be very obvious. For example, well, let's finish this paragraph first before I give the example. So the most significant bit is leftmost bit. And so it's going to be this guy. I'm pointing at it right here. Most significant bit right here, right? The largest value. That's the most significant bit. There we go. And then the rightmost bit is called the least significant bit because it has the least significant impact on the magnitude of the value. So this guy right here. What does this mean? Well, if we do our counting, this is the ones place, this is the twos place, the 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, right, and 128. So if I flip that on, the value is going to change by 128. That's a pretty significant change, so it's the most significant bit. Compared to over here, where if I change this, it's going to change the value by 1. The least significant bit. All right? So there's this thing in computer science where you can hide messages and data inside of other things, like maybe videos or photos. All right? The word for it is steganography. What people usually do is change the least significant bit in photos at the end of every pixel or color value in a photo so they can relay a message. Because changing the value of a color by 1 it's pretty much impossible for the human eye to really see. For example, let's go ahead and change the background of this website. If I can find the color for it. Let me see if this is the color for it. Background blue. Does that change anything? No. Let's just do the background of this text right here. Background blue. There we go. Let me go ahead and just set it to something like that. Alright. We can see what color it is. And I'm going to now change it by 1. Do you guys see the difference? No? It's the least significant bit. But if I change this one, this isn't the most significant bit, but it's a more significant bit. F2. I mean, I can see it. I don't know if it comes through on stream as well, but it's definitely more noticeable. This isn't me changing the most significant bit. It's just a more significant bit. But the end result being I could share pictures of memes to other people that, you've seen before. Maybe someone's monitoring you. You got FBI on your back. You could share images with your friends with secret messages in them, and no one would ever know because they would just assume they're normal memes. They don't look all, what's the word for it? Crunched, eaten up, toasted. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. So we got a table here. We got our decimal spots. So this just shows that the spot, or what do you call it, the power 2 for each one dictates basically the place value and the power. So it's just showing that every digit you go up in normal numbers is going to be 10 times more. All right, should make kind of sense. And then every digit you go up in binary is going to be double the previous number. And then for octal, it's going to be 8 times. And then for hex, it's going to be 16 times. So let's go ahead and move on down here. Using the decimal number system as an example, the number 1, 2, 3 is broken up into 1 100ths place, because we got a 1 right here that's in the hundreds place. 2 tens place, we got a 2 right here. What's up, Arcane Fear? Thanks for the follow. Alright, let's see here. And we got 3 in the ones place. Does that make sense? This should be like pretty much like a review for most of you guys here. 122, ones place, tens place, hundreds place. The number expressed in positional notation is this. So this is just another way of expressing the exact same number, all right? The ones place, you can multiply the number by the ones place value. The tens place, you can multiply that single digit here by the tens place value. And the ones place, you can multiply by the hundredths value. All right? You can do the exact same thing for all these different bases. So positional notation makes basic math functions intuitive. For example, in addition, a carry into the next higher position is created when a column adds up to be greater than the base. The amount of the carry is the number of times the base will divide into the column total, with the remainder staying at the bottom of the column. In the decimal example below, 9 plus 6 is 15. The column total is 15. The column total of 15 is divided by the base once, with the remainder of 5. So there's a carry of 1 and a remainder of 5 stays at the bottom of that column. All right, a lot of fancy terms for basically just doing the normal math that you normally do. The big thing is, if you're in base 10, you're whacking off 10. All right, and that will tell you how much you need to carry over and how much stays. If you're in base 8, you're going to whack off 8. If you're in base 16, 16. Binary, you're going to whack off 2. All right. So let's go in and zoom in here a little bit more. So we got normal math here. 9 into 6 is going to be 15, and you can see we carry a 1 and we get a 5. All right, pretty normal stuff. Binary. A 1 plus a 1 is going to be 2. So 2 in binary is what number? A 2 in binary is going to be a 1 and a 0, aka what you would associate as a 10. So that means a 0 goes down below and a 1 goes on top. We have a 1 plus a 0 plus a 1. So that's 1 and 1, same thing as before. We'll put a 0 down here and take 1 and carry 1. Again, we're doing the same thing, a 1 and a 1. So we got a 0 and we'll carry the 1. And now we have a 1, 1, 1. This is 3. So a 3 in binary is going to be this. 11, what we would normally think of. So that's why a 1 goes here and we carry 1. And so forth and so forth. Same thing with here, octal, 7 plus 2. Well, 8 is where we're wrapping around. So this wouldn't be a 9. All right, this would be going to, an 8 would be a 0, and then we're going to 1. So 1 goes here, and then 1 goes up above. Because in octal, we're counting by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if it's an 8, we go back to 0, and then we go back to 1, 2, and so forth. All right? So we have 7 plus 2 here. So 7, and then going up 2 is going to be a 1. And technically the number is going to be 11. 11 in octal is what we would think as a 9 normally. All right. And then we got our hex example here. And it's the exact same thing. So D, A is a 10, all right, because we don't have any numbers to represent 10 as a single digit. And D is going to be A, B, C, D. There we go, 13. All right, so we got 10 and we got 13, 23. All right, right? Did I mess that up? 23. That sounds about right. So 23, I guess we're dropping the 7 and bringing 1 over because 17 in hex is going to be 23. And then you can move on forward. So a little bit confusing, but at the end of the day, it's just using the same normal addition that you're used to. You'll just need to keep track of all the weird values everywhere. You can use a calculator, right? We're going to be going over how it's done manually, like how we are right now, but you can use a calculator, right? All right, so in subtraction, you can borrow the base. For example, in hex, 1 unit in the 16th place is 16 ones. So borrowing 1 unit from the 16th place provides 16 units in the ones place. So just like in normal math with base 10, when you need to borrow, you're borrowing 10. You're crossing out the number in front of it and subtracting it by 1, and then you're bringing over a whole 10. All right? Same thing here, except it's not 10, it's whatever the base is. You were already doing this with the base. You just didn't know you were doing it with the base prior. All right? If the base concept is a new thing to you. So here's some examples here of normal math realm where we have 742 minus 64. All right, 2 minus 4, we can't do that, so we need to borrow from the 4. When we borrow from the 4, let me pull up a paint so we can look at my good drawing skills. It'll look a little bit more normal than this photo does. So we got 742. And we got 64. And I guess this also depends on how you were taught to do your math, but the end result is always the same. So 2 to 4 minus, we can't do that because 2 is less than 4, so we need to borrow. So we'll cross this out. This guy is now a 3, and we put the 1 right here. So 12 into 4, we can do that, and that's 8. All right, 3 into 6. We can't do that, so we gotta cross this guy out. And we got a 6 right here. 13, that's our 7 and a 6, all right? Look kind of familiar? Take you back to grade school. Get the flashbacks, the panic, the, oh my God, math. All right, we use calculators for this, right? In programming, we use calculators too, all right? We're going over the manual stuff right now, but in the real world, you're going to be using the calculator, so don't worry too much. But this should look like review for you guys. Let me make sure I got the chats up here. All right. So let's take a look at binary world because it's the exact same thing. So let's take a look at this problem right here. So we got 0, 1, 1, 0. And you'll see that usually binary numbers, no matter how large they are, they're broken up into nibbles. So there's usually a space between the nibbles. Why? Because it's easier to keep track of what's going on. If all of this was squished against each other, it's really hard to understand what is happening. So break it up into nibbles. It's literally, nibbles are easier to consume, all right? Just like an actual nibble, all right? So let's go ahead and do a minus on this. This time we're in binary town. So a 1 minus a 1, just like in normal math you're used to, that's going to be a 0. They're both canceling each other out. All right. We have a 0 into a 1. Okay, 0 can't minus 1. So we have to cross this guy out and borrow it. So this guy's going to go to a 0. And This is up to you on how you want to write this. You can either write it as a 2 right here, because that's what it is effectively, or if you want to keep it completely in binary, you could just like write a 1 right here. So it will look like a 10, but what is a 10 in binary? Well, this is the 1's place, and this is the 2's place. So a 10 in binary is 2. So it's totally up to how you want to do it. I would say just put the 2 there because it's just easy for your brain to better understand it. So we got 1. All right, this is all zeros. All right, this guy's zeros. This one's zeros, zeros, 1, and 0. Bam, we solved it. It wasn't that hard, right? Sweet. And then you can do the same thing for octal and hex, and it's the exact same thing when you're borrowing, just like these guys, right? So let's move on down. Before we move on down to converting, any questions on this so far? Any questions at all? And then same thing, since we're carrying over 2, it's in base 2. In here, you can carry over an 8, and you can carry over a 16 if it makes more sense for you. And you could put the number at the very top into normal base 10 if that's easier for you to understand. As long as you get the right result, that's all that matters. So I see no questions, so we shall move on. Converting any base numeric value to decimal by multiplying and adding. So we're going to convert a base 2 to a base 10, aka binary, to a normal number. All right. So this should be pretty easy. We've been doing it so far. Binary numbers. If I give you this binary number right here and tell you to convert it to another number, which there are going to be test questions for conversion of binary to decimal, decimal to hex, etc., etc. We know that it's the 1's place, the 2's place, am I zoomed in too much? There we go. We have our 1's place, the 2's place, and so forth, so on and so forth. And it's simply just adding up all these numbers whenever there is a 1, and then we'll get our end number that we need. All right, this is just a table that's really, really breaking down everything. All right, it's literally always going to be either 1 times that number or 0 times, because 0 times anything gives you 0, and 1 times gives you that number you were timesing against. But it's basically the same thing as just grab every one and add them up. Any questions on that before we move to the next one? All right. Base 8 to 10. All right, let's look at this. So remember, base 8 goes up by 8 times every single time. So it always starts at 1s. And then it's going to go to 8, then 64, then 5 to 6, all right? So whatever the octal number is, we're going to multiply it now, same thing as we were doing before, against the values place it's in right now, and it will give us how much that is in decimal. And then we'll just count that up all the way across, and then we'll get our decimal result. So let's see this one on the paper here. So we got 5,703. 5,703. And this is an octal. An octal, remember we put an O at the end to represent its octal. So this is the 1's place. So we'll put a 1 right here. This is the 8's place. This is the 64. And the 512. Because remember, it goes up by 8 times each time. 1 times 3 equals 3. 8 times 0 equals 0. 64 times 7. You guys don't know that one? Gosh. It's alright, I don't know either. 64 times 7. 448. So 448. Alright. 5 times 512. 512 times 5. 2560. 2560. Alright. And we're just going to add all of these guys up. And I'm going to use a calculator because I'm not in elementary school. 2560 plus 448 plus 0 plus 3. So that is what our number is in decimal. So that one's in octal, and this one's in decimal. This one's in base 10. All right, and this one's in base 8. Make sense? All right, let's scroll down. Base 16 to base 10. Exact same methodology, exact same method on how you, never mind, I see what you did there. If you guys have questions, ask away. So let's go through this example again. It's the exact same methodology we just did with octal, but we're doing it again in hex. So we got a number here of D3, F, and 5. All right. It's easiest to label the top. So we're always starting with 1. We're in base 16, which means that everything is going to be 16 times moving forward. So 1 times 16, that's going to be 16. 16 times 16 is going to be 256. And 256 times 16, 4,096. All right? So 5 times 1 is going to be 5. F. What's F again? F is the highest value we can have, so it's going to be 15. Because 0, remember 0 does count as 1, like one of the numbers that we include. So we only go up to 15. So F is 15. So 15 times 16 is going to be 240. All right. 3 times 256 is going to be 5. Oh, God. I should be able to do that one from the top of my head. There we go. 768 and D. Let's go to the alphabet. Bring out your fingers, all right? Unless you're a genius. We got 9. 9 A, B, C, D. D is 13, all right? Use those fingers. They're there for a reason, all right? They're not just there for you to pick your nose. All right. So we need 13 times 4096. That is a lot of numbers. So 53,248. All right. Then we just add all these guys up. So that plus 768, and then 240, and then 5. So 54,261. Bam. That is our number. And let's see Oh man, I got it so wrong. Is this the 16? What did I mess up here? Oh, did I miss? Okay. I messed up this guy right here. Sorry, I was cheating from looking behind. No, is this number wrong? Something here ain't right. All right. So let's just go to a hex to decimal calculator. And let's double check ourselves because this book looks like it might need a couple revisions here. Yeah, we're 100% correct on what we did right here on paper. This is 100% correct. The book, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what I did right here and right here, but I had it right at first. All right. I'll fix that later. Don't worry. All right. Let's see here. Questions. I'm kind of confused. 200 or 2560. 25. Was that for a previous one? Oh, for the decimal one. How do you remember what the alphabet stands for? You got D wrong. Oh. No. So the alphabet. All you got to remember is it only goes up to F or 15, and you don't try to memorizing is good, but if you don't, just bring out your fingers, and we'll just count just like normal. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. God, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But we don't have 10, so we can't say 10. We have to say A. Because we start going with the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, and F. Sweet. So that's how you can tell what letter goes to what. All right. Just bring out your best tool you got on you at all time. Any questions on that? Any question on the previous stuff? All right. That was all 3 of the conversions. At least from those 2 base 10. So anything 2 base 10. I don't see any questions. So, converting from base 10 to any other base. All right. So, let's talk about that. Convert any decimal numeric value to any base by dividing and subtracting. Pro tip, the mod function in a calculator is how you can quickly get the remainder of a divided item. All right, let's see, does this guy have it right here? Mod. All right, mod is division, but it gives you the remainder instead. Let's is there a clear button on this? Or I have to... No? Well, kind of irritating. Whatever, let's move forward. Convert 11, so normal 11 in base 10 to binary. All right? So, let's see here. So let's put our 11 right here. A normal 11, I'm going to write base 10 right here just so we know it's normal 11 as we are normally used to it. Okay? So binary, again, we're going from the 1's place to the 2's place to the 4's place to the 8's place to, we'll write 16 here also. It's just timesing by 2's because it's base 2, so we'll time by 2 each time. All right? And then right here we have, so I'm going to write big old 2 and a B for B2. And then right here I'm going to write a B and a 10. Actually, no. I'm just going to keep it like that. All right, whatever. Forget I just did that. Find the largest positional value that will fit into 11. According to the table above, 8 is the largest binary position value that will fit into the number 11. Now we need to divide our number by 8 and keep the remainder. The remainder of 11 divided by 8 is 3. So far, our binary result looks like 1000 because we were able to divide by 8. So what they're saying here is, look at these numbers. Can 1 go into 11? Yes. Okay, let's move forward then. Can 2 go into 11? Yep. So let's move forward to the next guy here. Can 4 go into 11? Yep. Let's move forward to the next one. Can 8 go into an 11? Yes. All right, so let's move forward to the next one. Can 16 go into 11? No, 16 is too big. All right? So that means we need to put a 1 right here in the 8's place. And then we can remove 8 from this. So we can have 11 minus 8, and we're going to get 3. All right? So 8 minus is going to give us 3. And we do the same thing all over again. Can a 1 go into a 3? Yep. Let's check the next number. Can 2 go into a 3? Yes. Let's go to the next number. Can 4 go into a 3? No, 4 is too big. So let's go back to the 2, mark that with a 1, and then we'll subtract 2. And then we get 1 left over. Can 1 go into a 1? Yep, those are identical. So we'll go ahead and put a 1 here, put a 0 here, and that is our number. Very, very manual, slow process of check, check, check. Oh, doesn't work. All right, go back 1 place. All right, nothing fancy. It's pretty elementary, pretty basic. That's literally how you go about doing it. There's nothing fancy to it. There's nothing super special. That's literally it. Any questions on that? The book is just going to be talking about what we just did. I just use subtraction. So, any questions? Well, the book result is right here. This is the one that this is the end result. This was just for the first step. So we kind of jumped ahead here. Any other questions on that? No? All right. Surprise! It's the exact same thing for all the other numbers that we're going to do moving forward, all right? So let's go to octal. It's a very, very slow process when you're going from decimal to binary, all right? Not very fast. So we got our new normal decimal number, all right? And we need to convert it to octal. So octal has a 1's place, an 8's place, a 64's place, a 512's place, and let's go ahead, for sake of example, let's go ahead and grab the next one. 512 times 8, I think that was 4,000, yeah, 4,900, 4,900, or 4,096, my God. All right, sweet. Can 1 fit into this number? Yes. Can 8 fit into that number? Yes. Can 64 fit in that number? Yes. Can 512 fit into that number? Yes. All right, awesome. Can 4,096 fit into that number? No. All right. Well, now we need to put a 1 here? No, because it looks like 512 may be able, we don't know yet, may be able to fit into this number multiple times. So how can we figure out how many times it fits into that number? Calculator. And this is where the modulus and the division will make a little bit more sense. It's a little overkill for binary, but it makes a lot more sense for these ones, right? So we have 3,494, and we divide it by 512. We get the whole number there. That's the key thing. Our whole number is 6. So we can put a 6 right here. All right? 6. And now we can use our special mod. So if we go back and do 3,449 mod 512. This again is just division, but modulus is a special little key. So when we divide, instead of giving the result, it will only give us what's the remainder, that 0.73 whatever. It will give us the actual remainder. So 307 is our remainder. So we have 307 left over. Or 377. All right, sweet. So can 1 go into that? Yep. Can 8 go into that? Yep. Can 64 go into that? Yep. Can 512? No, 512 is too big. So let's get 64 into there, and let's use our calculator. So 377 divided by 64. The whole number is 5. So let's go and put 5 here, and we'll use our fancy friend modulus. So 377 divided by 64. Not divided by, my bad. Oh no, I've just broken it. 377 mod 64. So we got 57 left over. All right. 8's our next highest number, so we know 8 needs to go into this next. So now we can do 57 divided by 8. We got 7. All right. So let's go ahead and do 57 mod 8, and we have 1 left over. So let's go and put the 1 there. Bam, we've converted it. All right. So the same process as binary, just it's really manual. You go 1 by 1. This is where the division and the mod makes a lot more sense. And again, mod, if that's new for you guys, mod is literally just division, but you get all of the remainder left over. Thanks for the follow, Jocka27. So we just get all the remainder left over, and then we can just continue forward, right? No fanciness you have to do to reverse engineer or figure out what number you need left over. So if we look, and I didn't mess up the book, there we go. Our numbers are exactly the same. Any questions on that one? So we'll go through hex next, and then after that we'll go ahead and take our little bit we'll take a little bit of break, and then we'll power through the rest of this here, which is just one little thing left, and then we'll call it good for today because it's pretty darn late. We got a really late start. Unless you guys think it's a little too late right now and we should just call it right after hex. We can totally do that also. And then just continue on tomorrow at a reasonable time. I think we'll return back to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think that's what people liked most. Does everyone else agree? But while you guys are typing in chat, let's go ahead and crank through the last one here for hex. So we got our number 10,027. All right, sweet. So we need to convert this to hex. Again, same setup as before. Ones place, 1. Next place is going to be, we're in hex, base 16. Everything needs to be multiplied by 16. So 1 times 16 is going to be 16. 16 times 16 is 512, right? I see one that says don't mind calling it, and 7 p.m. is what they would like. I got another person seconding it. All right, I'm going to thirds it. So we'll finish up with the hex, and then we'll call it good for today, and we'll just continue for tomorrow because it is pretty damn late. All right, 16 times 16. 256. Need to double check myself there. 256. And then that times 16 is going to be 496. And that times 16 is going to be, this should look familiar for you Minecraft players, all right? 6, 5, 5, 3, 6. All right? That's the port Minecraft runs on by default when you're hosting a server. It's not a coincidence. It's literally tied to binary in these systems. I know this is hex, but hex is also really compatible with binary because they're all divisible by 2. All right. So let's see here. Let's do the same little logic we've done before. 1, yes, it can go in. 16 can go in. 256 can go in. 4096 can go into that. This number, way too big. All right. So we know we're not going to be going there. So let's use our calculator to do all the hard thinking for us. And we're going to do 10,027 divided by 496. All right. Largest values, 2. Let's write down 2. All right. Let's do 10,027 mod 496 to get our remainder. So we know we have 1,835 left over. So let's just work backwards from this last largest number, 256. Yes, it can go in there. Let's see how many times it can go into that. 7 times. So let's write 7 right here. And then let's get the remainder. 1835 mod 256. 42 left over. Sorry, 43 left over. Divided by 16. All right, we got a 2. And let's do 43 mod 16. We got 11 left over, so we can just write down 11 down here. Remember, we're in base 16. So what is 11? Bring these guys out. These are your best friends here, right? We got 9, A, because there is no 10. It goes to A, and then B. Sweet. B is what we need here. Nice. This is our hex conversion. And if we look here, bam, we got the same thing. Perfect. I didn't mess up the book math. All right. So that's how you would convert hex, binary, octal from decimal to these guys. This is how you do it. It's just a really basic process, really manual, very, very slow, nothing fancy. But if you go to college, you're not allowed to do this until you pass calculus. All right? I don't know why, but you're not smart enough, I guess, until you do calculus. That or they just want to suck some cash out of you and put up artificial barriers. So here we have no artificial barriers. We know you guys are smart enough, all right? And if it doesn't make complete sense, don't worry. It will click. It will click. You will 100% get it. Any questions at all here? Before we end the day and the stream, we will be back at it tomorrow. I am back home. Everything's good again. So all of you guys that did subscribe, I know the companion guides have been a little lacking, all right, recently. It's been busy, super busy for me, but I promise you, starting tomorrow, because I want to go to sleep also, because it's pretty late, I will be making the companion guides, all right? Again, until Taylor takes over. Then it's Taylor's job. So you can nag Taylor for the companion guides because he's going to be responsible for them next week when he's going to be teaching, all right? Awesome. Number soup brains, perfect, all right? We'll do a slight review tomorrow of what we covered today. and then we'll just continue forward. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I know there's one concern about their brain melting, so we'll make sure we call a doctor for you. Any other concerns? Awesome. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Hopefully you guys learned something new today, even though I know it was super, super late and kind of inconvenient for everyone, including me, but want to do at least something today, all right? Since it was scheduled in the first place, we didn't want to just ghost and ditch. So, yep, I agree. Let's all get some rest and recharge those batteries, and I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one.